I just discovered I hadn't been recording any audio for the last 15 minutes as I've been talking in my room. So that's excellent. That's great. I'm definitely going to remember exactly everything I said and how it all fits together. So May started on a Friday. I was working the Friday and the Saturday, if I remember correctly, and we were traveling on the Sunday to an undisclosed location in Europe for our anniversary. As I remember it, we were flying at 8 in the morning on the Sunday, and I finished work at like 11 o'clock maybe. So I walked home, packed my bag, and then got all my bits done. And then there was like a couple of hours left. Like Olympia had gone to sleep because she was like, well, I've worked in the morning, so I'm just going to have a full night's rest. And to be fair, like she stayed up with me when I was packing. It's like she, immediately went to sleep, but like she was already in bed. Anyways, the point is, I was like, no sleep. Let's go all the way through until we're in the country, until we're in the apartment, and then I'll sleep then. I'll just sleep then. I did sleep on the bus up to Dublin because that's obligatory. Otherwise, you're just staring at the fucking dark out the window, and like you might as well be asleep for that. So I slept there. And we got to the airport at an ungodly hour of the morning and got through, got all our luggage stuff sorted, walked through. I got to show Olympia the tickets at like the passport control thing because then it would spoil the surprise. It was like, as it was getting closer, I'm like, well, she's going to figure out the gate or she's going to figure out the time, like obviously something's going to happen here and she's going to realize where we're going. But she didn't, or at least she didn't say anything. She kept guessing, but she didn't say anything until we got down to the gate and she was like, oh my God. We're going to Košice, Slovakia. Košice just spoke out to me. Like, it's the second largest city. They have like a big historical section of the city, and then it like spreads out into a more, normal municipality, I guess. I don't know, city, because it is a city. And there was enough variety of stuff in it that seemed interesting. There was a couple of museums, a couple of art galleries. You can do some tours. There's a dino park. Plenty of places for beer. Plenty of nice restaurants to visit. All the hallmarkers you want for a place to visit. At this apartment place. Normally, I try to steer clear of like Airbnb and all of this kind of thing. But like so my system is I use like the big the big websites to find all the best deals. You know what I mean? Like your booking.com or your TripAdvisor or all of these things. And then I try to like go through, find a place that I like, a place that's good in all the usual qualities, but also find if there's like a private website they have, because oftentimes booking takes like commission on a place, on a property, because they're like, oh, well, we put your ads up or whatever. So I don't really like going to them directly. So if I can find a way to still use their service but skirt around, giving them money, I will do that. I will do that. So I try to do that for Košice, but it's just like, because you go to like hotels and they're like, how would you like to pay fucking €400 a night? And you're like, I don't want to pay that for a room I'm literally just going to sleep in. But then you can somehow rent like a decent sized apartment, I suppose, I don't know if it because you get everything included in the hotel, you're just like, oh, we have a swimming pool and also you can fucking get breakfast in the morning and it doesn't cost you anymore. So I guess maybe you're paying, I don't know, honestly. The place just seemed nice, seemed really fun. So I picked that. I spent so long talking about the place that I picked for us to sleep in, It was genuinely such a beautiful trip. It was so nice to just have this time together, to just spend days lounging around and chatting and like no rush anywhere. Like a little bit of a rush. A couple of times there was a little bit of a rush. But like not huge rushes and like rushes of like, come on, we better leave soon so we have time to lounge, like impromptu. We arrived there, they were having like a music festival, so like we walk through town and there'd just be different like stages on for music and dance competitions, people of all ages as well. Like, it really seemed like we just walked into this like really nice and welcoming community. We went for hikes and we went for dinner every night. We were just chatting and I don't know. I think what I find most incredible about the whole thing, you know, is that like I always feel like I'm meeting her again when we get these holidays away, where it's just like the two of us walking around cities and chatting and stuff. You know, not to, if I had to turn it into a movie, because obviously I do, because that's how my brain works. It's like, what are those movies about those pricks walking around Europe? The Before trilogy. It's like we're in the Before trilogy. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty excellent. Like, it's just, we just go around laughing and chatting and arguing and fucking, you know? And I don't know. I think I get better every time. I learn a lot about her. I learn some about me. And then we go home. So we arrive back, you know, and then I had to rush around town to get some paperwork sorted because I was starting the new job. And I was on the part-time dole because, you know, I didn't, I wasn't getting full-time hours. So, you know, part-time dole, that'll help out, et cetera, et cetera. But I had to rush around and get the paperwork done. And I was running in and out. And realistically, I could have done it if I'd simply gotten up earlier. I imagine it would have been simpler, but I did not get up earlier, so it was not simpler, you know. And then the next day, I had to get it done that day because I was rushing off to Dublin the next day for the Dublin International Film Festival Expo Hall, which is why I've been wearing this lanyard this whole time. Diff All Access, future filmmaker. That's me. I'm a future filmmaker, actually. Basically, it was a exhibition hall for a couple of studios and organizations within Ireland. I think there was a couple of colleges there as well. Like, it was like a hallway of like, here's here's our business cards and here's some pamphlets about what we do, and you get to talk to people about it. So I was talking to a couple of studio people and a couple of other stuff, you know, cool movie boy shit. And I was also there for a couple of screenings and a couple of Q&As. So they had a triptych of short films they showed us that were part of Diff earlier in the year. And so we got to watch those and then speak to the writer and director of two of those movies and the cinematographer from the third one, which was very cool because the Q&A was basically just like, how did you get here? How did you get to this point? What did you do? Huh? Explain. And it was nice, you know, to genuinely hear like people's stories, because you're like, it feels, you know, more achievable because I don't know, I guess, you know, they're more local or they're smaller films or like their story. It's fucking annoying though when someone's story is like, well, I spent 10 years just, you know, slowly building up my repertoire and, you know, working on projects. And you're like, oh, fuck. I should have started 10 years ago to build a repertoire of my work. Fuck. Why didn't I do that? Or next person's like, well, I actually emailed every production company in Ireland the week before I left college to see if there was any jobs going. I was like, fuck. Why didn't I email every production company in Ireland the week before I graduated? And I'm like, oh, right. Like, you know, I'm sure this person's college time was different than mine. Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Maybe we had identical college experiences except for this one thing. But yeah, so that one was super interesting because on the one hand, you have someone who's like, self-finance their own short film and it looks great, but like behind that, you know, they've also spent the past 5 years working in production and know how to produce a film, you know, before they jumped into like self-financing their own stuff. So they have that experience there. And then you're talking to another person who spent like a decade doing music videos and then just building up into like more narrative work, or someone who's into photography and launching over that way. And you're like, oh, well, you know, when I don't get to make my own movies, I actually own a fucking camera rental shop and I rent out all this equipment. And you're like, fuck, that's a great idea because, you know, you have to have many streams of revenue. And you're just like, Jesus, I'll never be like these people. This is out there. How will I ever achieve this? Well, I say that now, but leaving it, I was super pumped. Like I did that first one in the morning and then I had to, you know, go and get food, and like the whole thing was being held in like whatever that area of Dublin is called, which I don't know because I'm not in Dublin. But that whole area is like slop bowl central. which I didn't realize had gotten to Ireland yet, but it makes sense. Slop bowl, or like a bowl of slop. It's just like every restaurant in the area is just like, do you want a biodegradable cardboard bowl just full of the food like items so you can chew it down, like a trough. You want your own personal trough between, your 9 to 5, your lunch break. Do you want to eat just like a bowl of green and red? Well, I did. I had a boujum bowl and I tried every single one of their fucking hot sauces. They had a bunch of hot sauces there on the side that you can just pick up and try. And, you know, if you gave me the luxury of one or two, I'll try the luxury of one or two. But if you're throwing around 15 of them, if there's like jalapeno pineapple hot sauce, and there's Chipotle eye burner, and there's Scorchville 1000, they're all there. The social pressure is that you should only try one or two. You shouldn't, four, maybe if there's a group of you, y'all try one each. But I went through fucking all of them, and my tummy was not happy with me afterwards. The following hour of my life, as I sat in the front row going, interesting. I see how this advertising company started off small, but is now big. We just had my tummy going, you shouldn't have got a bubbly drink, man. Why'd you get a bubbly drink and have all the hot sauces? He was at war with me, is basically what I'm saying. But it was super interesting as well. And then after it finished, it was like, oh my God, I could have like a whole evening in Dublin because I booked my bus back for super late. What could I possibly do in Dublin at this hour? Maybe go to the cinema? Yeah, I think I'll just leave Dublin. The very next day, I had to go to the NCT because my little Nissan Micra needed to get the all clear from big NCT to let me drive her on the road, for her driving test, or my driving test. Sorry, the NCT is her driving test in a way. So I went down the next day. It was funny because I had to get someone to come with me to drive to the test center because I'm not allowed to drive by myself. So my girlfriend's friend was over. She drove over from fucking Poland to Galway, like an insane, like 2 or 3 weeks journey or something, because she trains shepherd dogs, for fun and glory. So she was training these dogs and, came over because there's a bunch of these trials that happen, in England and Ireland and stuff. So she did them while she was over here, but she was just over for the month and no one else was around. So I was just hanging out with one of my girlfriend's like oldest friends from secondary school, I want to say. I think they met in secondary school. And I'm just like, so, Olympia's pretty cool, right? I like Olympia. We're also talking about dogs a bunch and renting dogs and cars. Super easy to talk to. She's such a sound woman. And then we were sitting there watching my car go through this test. And, I was telling her all these things that I thought it might fail on. Because I had my mate who's a mechanic come have a look through, and he was pretty happy. He was like, yeah, this car is fine, don't even worry about it. The only thing that was an issue, not all the rattles and the squeals and all the other weird noises that come from my car, but it was just she needed new windscreen wipers, and they advised that I should get one of the tires changed. The newest tire on this car when I got it was like 2020, I want to say. Some of them we couldn't even tell when they were from. They were that worn down. One of them was fit to explode. I really stalled on getting new tires or wipers from my car, even though I know I needed them because I was working a part-time job, and that doesn't pay that much. And I thought I'd figured out this life, like this hack, where I would do part-time work and part-time dole, and that would give me regular wages, but that's just not how it works. Unfortunately, we live a life of regret, me especially. Sunday 10th, Mother's Day in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. I've been trying to call my mom every week now for the past a while. It's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of routine and a little bit of a catch-up. It used to just be a thing that normally happened on Sundays, and now I try to make the time. Make the time for parents. I read this thing a while back, and by that I mean my friend told me this thing he read a while back, where apparently you spend Most of the time you spend with your parents in your life, you spend while you're still living under one roof. Once you leave your parents' house, that's normally, the percentage of how much you see them a year starts plummeting. And that Sunday was really nice. We went down, had a couple of cans in the sun. Down here, had a bit of a volley, and by that I mean I mostly watch my friends play volleyball because I'm not very gifted with hand sports or foot sports or ball sports, to be honest. So volleyball's really just not all of that for me, unfortunately. And it's okay to be bad. It's okay to be bad at a thing in front of your friends. It's a lie. It's a trap. You should actually never show weakness. That's why I don't play volleyball when I'm drunk. Or at all. Oh my God. Monday, 11th of May. This is a big, exciting day. On the calendar, I wrote down clean bathroom plus scheduling. Scheduling is a great way to plan things out for tomorrow and then never carry through with them. I think that's a great part of scheduling, is setting a big plan. It's not just planning one or two things. It's planning everything you've ever thought of into your week and being like, this is doable and reasonable. My notes just say movie meetings. I think, yeah. There's like the second 2 weeks, like from May 11 to May 22. There's like 3 or 4 days in there that's just like, oh, movie meetings, meeting with the producer, meeting with animator, time to color correct part 2. And it's all part of this journey with this fucking film that I've been like stalling on. Like I don't even know if it ended up being included in last month's rant. Basically, what happened was I made a cut of it in 2 days because, in March 2025, because we were going to show it at Little Cinema here in Galway like that same month. So I put a cut together in 2 days. And then it was like, oh, I'm not happy with it. I'm going to do more stuff with it afterwards. It's not finished yet. And now it's a year and 2 months later. And all I have is a picture lock and half a color grade because I just kept tinkering away with it. Like, it's not, it's not that good. Like, it's fine. Like, it's fine as like a little sketch or a little thing made for Little Cinema or whatever. But like, I'm working on it over here as if it's the fucking, I don't know, like I'm trying to restore the Mona Lisa or some crap when it's just not that good, which is okay. It just, I need to stop fucking with it. I just need to fucking get it done. Like, everyone in my life is so tired about hearing about this thing. Like, I was trying to do color correction the other day and I like started noticing that between takes the sun was rising more or something was changing in the background, and then I was trying to course correct that because obviously you can go in DaVinci Resolve with like masks and all of these different things to like really play around with your footage. And I was explaining this to my girlfriend, like I was explaining it to Olympia, and she's just like, I'm so sick of hearing about this movie. And she's like, these tiny details that only you're going to notice. And I'm like, yeah, this is true. Because like, it's not going to make the overall piece any better. You know what I mean? The piece has reached peak goodness. Like, the performances are strong. And the cut that I have now, which is mostly just the one I had a year ago, is good. And I'm like going through color correcting it. And I'm like learning all of this technical stuff, which is fun for me as like an exercise. But in terms of like, it just feels like I'm stalling this thing being done because I know it'll never be as good as I want it to be. So I still want to release it because, people spend time on it and I want to like have a finished product I can show people. But it's also like I've spent a year working on like this sketch gag thing and I should just fucking should just get over it. But I keep going and tinkering with it again. I like, I'd love to move on to the next thing. I'd love to, I keep writing other shit and I'm like, well, I can't ask people to help me film. I can't ask people if they want to work on something until I have the last thing to show them, because that's how it works, obviously, People don't want to work with you until they've seen the previous thing they did, which is, I suppose, makes sense. Or even if I had anything to show people, but I refuse to show it. So I feel like I've just kind of covered those days with that little bit of a rant there. I feel like I have a lot to say about this whole thing, this whole little movie thing, but I'm so tired of saying it because it's just the same talking points every time and it just rattles around in my head. This is ridiculous. Then 22. Luckily, we've given up being sad on the 22nd of May, Friday, because it's time to drive, it's time to vote, and it's time to watch fucking Twilight. That was an exceptional day. We had the Galway by-elections, which feels like a million years ago now, but it's all I could talk about for the month of May. For those of you unfamiliar with the Galway West by-elections, there was like 17 fucking candidates. You have your two major parties, you have Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, then you have the Sinn Féin candidate, and then you go into, your Social Dems, your, what are the red ones? Labour, that's what they're called. You have Untus, you have Independent Ireland. We had what are they called? The National Alliance. National Alliance billboards are hilarious, by the way. I think it goes without saying I don't support anything their billboards say, but it's very funny to see a poster that's just like, hey, do you want to be racist and anti-vax? And you're like, no. Like, what was it? RIP Ireland, but not rest in peace. It was replacement. No, because they all had a shun in it because it was like immigration, replacement shun. But then like the third, like the P was plantation, and I'm like, huh? Like I understand, lads. You came up with the RIP Ireland, and you were like, oh, we have reparation. Maybe that was it, or they like definitely immigration because like National Alliance or whatever their independent parts of the party are just like trying to do like what the states have and like what England has. Like they're trying to be like a more extreme right wing party, but it's also Irish. So it's like, how are you going to be Irish and racist? You know what I mean? Like how are you going to be like from a nation of immigrants and be like, well, you know what? My parents and my grandparents and my great grandparents all suffered incredible hardships. Both the ones that like stayed in Ireland and their family that moved abroad because of the way they were treated abroad. Like everyone had a terrible time. But now that we've run into a bit of money, I think I think it's time to turn the tables. It's just the fact that we have to vote for like 17 people, and you're running through because at the start you're like, okay, well I know who I'm picking first. And then I guess I know who I'm picking second. I was drifting around, because it's especially with the by-elections, it's hard to know where to cast your vote because you're like, obviously, you want what's good for Galway, but all the people you elect are going to be up in the Dáil. It's not like their local government. There was one of the candidates was the mayor of Galway. The Lord Mayor of Galway was also running to be a TD. I don't know if that's a conflict of interest, to be honest. I can't imagine Lord Mayor of Galway is more than just like a ceremonial role. You know what I mean? It's like when they say there's a Lord Mayor of London, and you're like, oh, for what? I assume he serves the same function as the Queen to just dance around the city in like a little hat or whatever. There was like a bunch of independents as well. There was like cool independents. There was one of the candidates who was like connected to Catherine Connolly, and she was like, I'm only, running because there's no like someone I see with the same ideals as Catherine Connolly. And you're like, well, that's fair because I did vote for Catherine Connolly twice last year, which is odd. It was great when I was voting for, to be like TD in Galway. I'm like, oh, sound. She's doing sound stuff. And then she's like, oh, I'll be the president of Ireland. You're like, all right, that's great. Yeah. That's another ceremonial role. You don't really have to, do too much for that. Oh, wait, now I have to vote for someone else? In Galway? This is ridiculous. Why can't you just hold two roles? I think it's fine. I think you should still be allowed to be a TD for Galway. Yeah, it was fascinating to follow. So close by as well. They had to do like fucking 10 or 11 recounts the whole night it was going. I was very invested because it seemed there for a hot minute that we were just going to have like, what's his name? I can't remember. Chancellor? Is he a Chancellor? Counselor. I don't know as well. On all the posters, they have CLLR, which I don't know if that's Chancellor or Counselor. And then we went home and watched Twilight rather drunkly. Twilight's a great movie, man. I've spent so many years as a teenager just being like, these movies are shit and trash and bullshit and bad. And it's like, no, man, like just open your eyes a little bit. Not every movie is going to be the exact same. Not every movie is trying to be the same thing. And you coming in and just being like, well, this movie is actually not for me, so that makes it bad. It's like, I don't know. A great week of weather there. I think it was the last week or maybe the second last week. There was lovely weather. It was super annoying because we were having all these lovely long evenings and I just started working. So I was missing a big chunk of it, you know. It just, there's nothing worse than having to be indoors working when there's other people out there outdoors chilling, you know. I got a lot of split shifts, so that was nice. I got to enjoy the sun in the middle of the day. You know, I went out swimming one of the days. We went out to Salt Hill. Me and Owen, we thought we were going out for high tide so we could dive off. But when we arrived out there, it was fairly low tide. So we could not dive off. We had to, you know, get into the ocean. I don't know if my body is okay, but when I get into the water, once I get over like the immediate, oh fuck, I'm cold, I'm gonna, you know, freeze my fucking knees off, and I continue getting into the water. Once I'm fully submerged, I can like feel what I can only assume is every muscle in my body just beginning to vibrate to keep me warm. Because like it feels like I can feel the tendons underneath, especially around my shoulders, are just like fighting to like escape. And the only rationalization I have is that's my body like shivering in the water to try and warm itself the same way it would shiver on land to you know, heat the temperature. Because once I start swimming in the water, then I'm like, oh, this is fine. But the moment I stop, my body's just like into this tension again, and I'm like, oh fuck, all right, stay moving. But I experienced that when we were out swimming, myself and Owen, and I just assumed that's normal. But there's something lovely about being in the water with like the evening sun hitting you like just fucking in the face, the way it kind of is here now, where you're just like just this part and you're just incredible. Love it. Every part about that is excellent. I would also like to say proudly, you know, not to show off or anything, but a few years ago, I fucking hated the beach. I hated the ocean. I thought swimming was dumb. I thought surfing was worse skating. And I didn't want to have anything to do with water. And after, you know, working through it, you know, after working through my terrifying fear of the beach, letting go of that, whatever element it was, it's so much fun to be in the water. And, you know, you don't really need a reason to be at the beach other than wanting to just enjoy the water, you know? So I've started diving in like the last couple of years and just really enjoying the sea again, which is lovely. And now I'm just like dying for a good day so I can go into the sea. There's actually a house we're looking at the moment. It's always very funny to describe the house hunting situation. So my parents will be like, or you know, that's basically what my parents will be like. Oh well, what's happening with the house situation? You know, how's the house hunting going? I'm like, actually, we're looking at this property at the moment. I'm not too sure about it though, just because of you know, there's just some elements about it that I'm not too fond of. And it's like, as if I have a choice, as if it's like down to me to be like, I don't know which one of these properties we're going to rent. It's tough because every house that's newly renovated is just a fresh coat of paint and some carpets upstairs. You know, you walk into the bathroom and you're like, nobody's touched this since the 1800s. There's still a well in here to collect water. How much renovation was done? But there is one of these places that we're looking at the moment that's out Salt Hill side, which would be so sick. The second year I lived in Galway, I live with my dear friends out in this apartment in Salt Hill, and it was just extraordinary. And if I lived in Salt Hill again, I think I definitely would appreciate it so much more, you know, because not only do you have the ocean. You have like the aquariums there. There's so many casinos. Oh my god. The cinema, such great pubs. There's like great place for tapas. Like there's Salt Hill has got a lot going on. You know, I don't think I'd ever go into town again, actually. I'd never go anywhere near it. I'd just dive in off Black Rock and swim across. I'd arrive at the harbour. And that's what I would do if I lived in Salt Hill again, which I might because, you know, one of these properties we're looking at. Tuesday, 26th, back to climbing. That's what I wrote in there. That's a good job I wrote that because I think that was the only time I went climbing in all of May. You know, I feel like when I started these, I'm like, oh man, climbing's the best thing ever. And then I just immediately stopped. We're reaching the end here. I feel like I'm speeding through. Then we had like applications and the long shift. I think I had like a 1 to 11 that day, maybe. And also I was applying to a bunch of stuff because, you know, things don't come to you. So I keep applying for all of these different like internships and workshops and all these different things you can do. And just, you know, because you never know. You never know which one's going to be the thing. So that's what I was doing that day. And then the next day I was doing audio with Olympia because Olympia is also applying to a bunch of stuff and, you know, workshops and internships and all these things. And one of them required her to have like an audio thing where she talked about it. So we had this setup. You know, this setup here, but it was Olympia talking instead of me. And then I edited it down for her. And then she sent it off and bish bosh boom. And now it's just to wait to hear back. I don't want to say anything in specific because I always feel like that kind of jinxes it once you talk about it in specifics. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's not my thing to tell. At the end of the day, it's not my thing to tell. And one of the big fun things that I got to do this month on my calendar, it's on the 30th of May, and big handwriting says tired. And then scraggled in the corner is Galway food tours because genuinely when I came home that day, I had forgotten that I'd done it because I was so exhausted from work. But basically my friend Siobhan, who I've known for many, many years via this restaurant we worked in, as a going away gift, got one of these Galway food tours because the food tours were always going through the restaurant we worked in together. And so she invited me and a few others who we'd all worked together in the place onto this food tour when she'd finally accepted, you know, decided to do it. So I was running down from Prospect Hill to McCambridge's to get there in time because she said to be there at like 10:30 on the dot. And I was like coming up the road and I was like, oh fuck, I'm a few minutes behind. So I just like legged it and I got there. And we were waiting for some Americans to join us on the tour because it wasn't just going to be the four of us and the tour guide. It was also going to be like a handful of Americans as well. You know, the tour guide, she was super sound. What she introduced us as, you know, oh, here's 4 people who like live in Galway. You know, it's like 4 proper Galwegians. And off the American lady, she was like, oh my God, natives? Which is, I don't know why that's such a funny turn of phrase coming from Americans, you know. Because, you know, I say native all the time, like native language, native culture, whatever. But like just hearing an American accent go, oh my God, natives? It's like, yeah, bro. Yeah. I don't know why it's so weird to say it like that. But it was a super cool tour. And like they were super sound as well. It was just like a couple of cultural differences, I guess. Like we were outside this coffee shop because we were going to have a filter over brew. Sorry for all the coffee people. I don't know what it was called. Filter coffee. It was probably just filtered coffee, I guess. But like while we were waiting outside, we were chatting about tea, and Keith, one of the lads who was on the tour with us, was like winding up the Americans about, you know, how to make a cup of tea, and you know, you don't put it in the microwave and you don't put the milk in first before you heat it up, and all these things that we've seen Americans do, and they're very surprised. They're like, oh well, how else would you boil water? And they just don't have kettles or whatever. But you know, then you get into the Barrys and Lions debate, and you get into bag in or bag out for your cup of tea, and then it's hard to, you know, you don't want to bring up those conversations in front of Americans because it's like, you know, discussing family business in front of strangers. We went to Truffle, which I'd never been into before. It's such a lovely place. Like the pastries are great, the macaroons, the chocolates, great explanations about how they make it all and how the operation works and where they get like specific ingredients from. It was a great time, you know. It's honestly, I love doing tours of the city. I think I want to do one of the historical tours of Galway because I think that'd be super interesting. I've heard bits and pieces, but it's like there's so much history here. Like there's so much shit that I don't know about Galway and like things that I learned just going to like 3 or 4 different restaurants and cafes on this tour. It was super nice. Food's all good, obviously. You know, we were eating stew and mussels and oysters. We went to Little Lane Coffee and we went to McCambridge's and we went to St. Nicholas's Market and we went to Murphy's for ice cream and we went to the King's Head and went to a bunch of places, and they all have super cool, super interesting history. And every time you're learning Irish history, especially in the city, you're like, oh man, which one of these guys they're telling me about is secretly English and secretly fucking over everyone? You know, it's like, oh, this guy owned a pub. Really? How could he afford a pub? Oh, he was a landlord? Oh, he was the biggest landlord around. Oh, I don't know. It's just every part of Irish history is that, you know, the King's Head is, you know, because it comes back to Cromwell. You know, every other pub is just like, you know, unless it's like a modern business, which is also nice to hear about too. We heard about Truffle. The whole operation, maybe not the whole operation, but like the whole business idea has been around in some form for like 10 years. And just hearing like a modern success story in Galway is always nice. The tour guide did also, in the same place, mention that Galway is like the death of ambition because people arrive here with like hopes and dreams and then they're just like, ah, it's just Galway. You know, which is terrifying. It's a terrifying thing to hear, actually. 'Cause, you know, this place you live in, death of ambition. Better get out. Better get out. And then on the 31st, fuck does that say? That definitely says Owen. Housewarming. That was it. Because Owen was having a housewarming. Because Owen's the lad who moved out. So after work, I joined him and his new housemates and my housemates at a housewarming. That went into the early hours of the morning. It was really nice. A super interesting group of people to meet. Super nice house. Kind of jealous. I mean, not jealous of the number of roommates or housemates, but jealous of like how nice the house is. Yes, that was the last day of May. Jesus, that was the last day of May. And then now we're in June. And what have I done in June? We're not talking about June.